The cheating wife's anonymous letters that I never expected. It was never my intention to pry open the cedar box. It belonged to my wife, has been hers since we settled into this house in the summer of '85. It was tucked away on the highest shelf of the closet, concealed behind a pile of faded quilts. I had witnessed her take it down a few times throughout the years, with a careful touch, almost reverent, as if it contained her mother's cherished recipes or a collection of baby clothes from when our daughter was little. I did not inquire. In the course of a lengthy marriage, one discovers the existence of certain drawers best left unopened and tales that deserve to unfold at their own pace. This morning, however, I found myself in search of the spare cabin keys. We had envisioned a weekend by the lake, sipping coffee on the porch, tackle resting on the rail, and a silence so profound that we could hear the geese before they came into view. I drew back the quilts, and there it lay. The cedar box, its surface as smooth as a hymn, weighty with the burden of memory. As the lid rose, the scent of aged paper and lavender emerged, reminiscent of a long-lost companion I had forgotten to summon. Within, envelopes. At the very least, 2 dozen, bound by a tattered blue ribbon. I share this with you now, hoping to impart a lesson I once longed to learn. There are instances that cleave existence into before and after, and they often arrive without fanfare. At times, they exude the fragrant essence of cedar and lavender. The initial correspondence commenced. Once more you graced my dreams. L. A crimson dress, the sweltering embrace of July, and that defiant curl by your left ear, forever resisting your commands. I awoke with laughter bubbling up, yet a twinge of self-loathing lingered in the air. Is there a term for longing for something that was never truly yours? T. The handwriting was not my own. That voice did not belong to me. It was not meant for my eyes. A certain chill exists that arrives without the herald of shivers. It unfurls gradually from the chest to the wrists, pausing at the nape of the neck, measuring your heartbeat and whispering, "Not yours today." If you've ever stumbled upon something you would gladly pay to erase from your memory, you understand this unsettling feeling. And if you find yourself attuned to these words, if any of this resonates like a threshold you once crossed when you ought to have turned back, drop me a line. It is comforting to realize that we are not alone in our struggle with these boxes. I perused the second letter. As you walked by in town, you offered me that courteous smile that strangers often share. Had I possessed greater virtue, I would have embraced your kindness with gratitude. My gaze fixated on the back of your coat, rendering everything else invisible. The memory of your hand's warmth lingered, as if it still rested in mine. T. The paper trembled, not due to its years. I arranged the letters as if they were pieces of evidence, some soft and yellowed from years of handling, others crisp, the ink still defiantly blue. Dates nestled in the corner, reminiscent of mile markers along a winding road. 1991, 1998, 2004, a piece from the previous autumn, a signature placed at the bottom of each. T. Thomas Reed, my companion in fishing for 3 decades, the gentleman who imparted the skill of tying a bowline to our son, the man who joined me in hammering trim during the summer of '92, only to tumble from the ladder in fits of laughter. The man beside me at our 40th anniversary raised his glass and proclaimed, "To 2 stubborn souls who never quite mastered the art of giving up." I wished to be mistaken. The subsequent letter bore the weight of age, its postmark revealing a quaint town nestled 2 counties away. I spotted you at the Harvest Festival. You donned that blue sweater he adores. It's delightfully mischievous, I admit, but I envisioned you adorned in it just for me, only a single time, merely to witness if the universe would shatter and reveal its secrets. T. The world remained unbroken. Not at that moment, yet I did. Upon her return, groceries in hand, the box lay open on the bed, its ribbon coiled like a vein. She placed the bag down with precision, glanced at the letters, then turned her gaze to me, reminiscent of a nurse contemplating the perfect spot for the needle. "Where did you discover it?" she inquired, her tone unwavering. "The finest selection," I remarked, "veiled within the quilts. You ought not to have perused them." I completed my task, and the sound that escaped me was a laugh that had lost its way to tenderness. "Is that where the pain resides?" She perched on the edge of the bed, her hands clasped together as if to prevent them from scattering into the air. "These are from Thomas." "I understand." Granules of gravel lodged in my mouth. "Once upon a time, in a distant past. A few of them date back to the previous year." She shut her eyes, her lids quivering delicately. He continued to write without pause. "What about you?" I failed to respond. A rhythm. Yet I held on to them. There it lay, the hook ensconced beneath the flesh, the act of preserving. Hurt speaks in myriad tones. Among them, the act of holding on resonates most powerfully. "Why?" I inquired. She gazed directly into my eyes, and the woman standing before me was the girl I had wed, the mother of my children, and the enigma who preserved a man's letters within a cedar box. "Because once," she said, "they made me feel desired in a way I hadn't experienced in ages. And when I no longer desired him, I still yearned to recall the sensation of being acknowledged. My desire was to unleash a tempest of fury. Heaven knows I certainly could have. Instead, something weightier settled upon my chest. A lament not for her, nor for us, but for the man I had been just this morning, searching for keys, convinced that the gravest misfortune of the day would be a missed coffee on the porch. We dined on roast chicken, its warmth fading as the crime drama on TV indulged in its own self-mockery. At the stroke of midnight, I returned to the box, as though additional words could somehow alter the very essence of those I had already encountered. You once shared that in those restless hours of sleeplessness, you find solace in the rhythmic ticking of the clock, as if time itself wraps around you, anchoring you in the stillness of the night. Tonight, I find myself counting between the ticks, yearning for the space to expand, allowing room for the life we never selected. Tea. In my mind's eye, I envisioned Thomas seated at his kitchen table. I envisioned my wife in this very room, delicately turning those pages, a gentle half-smile gracing her lips as she savors the kindness of memory. Something delicate, which I had thought impervious to shattering, has indeed fractured. As the first light of dawn broke, I made my way to the lake. I dipped my feet into the frigid water, attempting to quantify 43 years with just 10 toes. When did we cease to venture up there for no particular reason? When did the laughter of grandkids, the clatter of gutters, and the simplicity of good-enough dinners become the only sounds that filled our days? Marriages do not unravel overnight. They tug at one loose thread after another until the entire fabric lies there, gently unraveling, as if inquiring whether anyone objects. That afternoon I inquired, if he had requested you to part ways with me back then, would you have done it? She stirred the pot gently, placing the spoon down as if it were delicate porcelain. "Just for a moment," she remarked. "I believe I may have held on to the notion that it was within the realm of possibility. And then I would have found myself filled with regret, for it was never truly about him. It was about the act of recalling my own existence. That settled in a place where fury had begun to take root. I found myself there, seated in the chair, within the confines of the house, gathered around the table. Here yet, not here, the most merciless form. For a time, the subject of Thomas remained unspoken between us. He passed away 2 years ago, his heart reclaiming its solitude in the stillness of the night. I bore a corner of his casket. Following the service, I extended my hand to my wife as if we were mere acquaintances in a formal receiving line. We made our way back home. I tended to the lawn, giving it a fresh cut. A week later, I discovered the cedar box devoid of its contents. In the rear, the fire pit cradled a residue that exuded a subtle hint of lavender. "I believed I required their presence," she remarked. "Yet, I do not." We embarked on counseling, as I found myself at a loss, unsure of how to manage something so immense without letting it slip and burdening us both. Dr. Morales possessed a gaze that conveyed understanding, accompanied by an array of legal pads. She requested that we compose letters of truth to one another, not a tale of love, stock assessment. I recounted to my wife the instant when the lid was raised, and my lungs seemed to lose their memory of how to breathe. Concerning the doc, concerning the desire to be the man she could smile about on her own, for reasons that were entirely her own. I confessed to her that I had taken pride in my steadfastness, yet remained oblivious to my own absence, that I had maintained the glow of lights while neglecting the emptiness of the rooms. She revealed that she had meticulously counted the spaces nestled between my sentences. She had mastered the art of saying, "It's fine," for the sake of simplicity and economy. The letters served as a reflection she despised, yet couldn't look away from, for within them, her own face was the sole one she truly recognized. Healing did not come softly, like the gentle arrival of dawn. It arrived as winter fades away, a fleeting day of warmth, followed by a biting frost, and then the inevitable embrace of mud. We rediscovered the art of touch in the hallways once more. The coffee was served, mirroring the manner in which the other preferred it. Joy arrived like a familiar friend, surprising, delightful, yet not meant to linger. One afternoon, Dr. Morales posed a question that took us both by surprise. "What was the most honest day of your marriage?" Years stood in a row, akin to bottles perched upon a fence, celebrations of love, infants, demises, advancements, stray canines, knees that betray. We chose a modest day, 97. She was feeling under the weather, so I prepared a warm bowl of soup. The children were visiting their friends' homes. We drifted into slumber on the couch, the movie only half seen, and stirred to the gentle, persistent hum of the VCR's blue screen. We chuckled at its sheer ordinariness. We cherished its simplicity. We concluded that honesty could very well resemble that, dull yet vivid. It was then that I discovered not every letter had been sent to my wife's address. Some remained untouched, never reaching the mailbox. The most recent bundle was postmarked to a P.O. box that Thomas had rented 2 towns away. Our mail carrier, a well-meaning purveyor of tales endowed with a memory as precise as a church ledger, inadvertently revealed, "Funny thing, Mr. Carter, before he passed, your friend would drop by on Tuesdays to collect a stack." Perpetually whistling. I envisioned him collecting words as one would gather wood, sustaining the flame in that manner. I found myself wanting to despise him. I often found myself loathing how grief and desire occasionally shared the same script. Amidst the unfolding events, our daughter Claire reached out to share the news of her separation from her husband. A shift in the kitchen's atmosphere marked a change in temperature. Love embodies that essence. One moment, you may be engulfed in anger, yet a single phone call can effortlessly realign your hearts, placing you once more on the same side of the table. We journeyed to Claire's, cradling the baby as her cries filled the air. My wife settled onto the floor alongside our grandson, constructing towers solely for his delight in toppling them. As we journeyed home, I remarked, "Do you believe we imparted sufficient lessons on the importance of staying?" She remarked, "Perhaps we educated them on the art of choice." And it struck me how those matters can bicker like siblings cohabiting a space. On the occasion of our 44th anniversary, the children organized a delightful backyard celebration for us. Twinkling lights, creamy potato salad, and the sort of off-key melodies that resonate like a heartfelt prayer. My wife donned a green scarf that accentuated her eyes, reminiscent of the tender hues of early spring. Glasses chimed together as they recounted our tale in charming snippets. Every marriage unfolds as two narratives, I believe, the one you experience and the one that circulates at social gatherings. We possess both. Following the cake, our son Michael presented me with a small box. Within, a key rests upon a leather fob. "The cabin," he remarked. "I had a feeling you both might venture up once more." Indeed, we did. The porch boards creaked like weary joints, yet the view held our memories close. We observed a heron maintain its poise on a single leg for a duration that surpassed my ability to stand on two. Our words were sparse, yet each felt like a smooth pebble nestled in a pocket, small, familiar, and comforting to grasp. She grasped my hand. "I loved you then," she said, "even when I was unable to sense it." I realize that may seem incorrect. "That doesn't seem incorrect," I replied. "It resembles the weather." By the water's edge, a slender strand of crimson thread was ensnared in a nail. For a full minute, my thoughts danced as they often do, leaping from the present into the depths of the most troubling memories. It originated from a weathered porch cushion. I chuckled at my own folly, the sound echoing in the air, and in that moment, the heron seemed to share my amusement. A week later, I found myself behind the wheel, making my way to the cemetery. Thomas's stone is unadorned, just his name, the dates, and a small engraved base fish that stirs a frustration within me that feels disproportionate. I lingered with my hands tucked into my pockets, addressing the man beneath my feet, informing him that I had borne his box for some time. But now I was ready to set it down. I conveyed to him that we were making an effort. I explained to him that rage is a form of love, lurking like a switchblade tucked away in a boot, and I was finished bearing its weight in my own shoe. I expressed my hope that he had discovered tranquility. If you've accompanied me on this journey thus far, it's likely that you didn't seek counsel. You arrived, drawn by the scent of your own cedar box, infused with lavender and tinged with regret. I cannot dictate your course of action regarding it. Allow me to recount our actions. We penned more letters, the sort that defy the confines of envelopes. A bench rests by the kitchen window, a place where morning greets us first. On the table lies a deck of cards, a source of entertainment that follows our evening meal. The stakes are simple. The one who falters must share a small truth. I discovered that she detests the word fine. She discovered that the clock in the den gives me a sense of being observed. We rehung the wedding photo not as a testament to anything, but as a reminder that we were courageous, if only once, and that courage is a muscle we must exercise. Forgiveness was not a grand celebration. Stepping inside was akin to returning to a sacred space after a long absence. The atmosphere embraces you. The benches offer no inquiries, and the melody recalls the contours of your lips. It was as if I were gazing at my wife from across the garden, catching a glimpse of the girl who chuckled at my awful jokes, the woman who tucked away letters she ought to have incinerated, and the companion who arrives for soup, tower building, and the quiet surrender of winter. It was as if I was intentionally embracing the entirety of another soul. Visitors arrive and gesture towards a photograph displayed on our mantel. It originates from the celebration of the anniversary. She dons the green scarf. I appear as one who has mastered the art of conveying attentiveness without uttering a single word. It is often remarked, "You two appear to be quite joyful." We exist, not because our garden was devoid of any dark blooms. Yet when the weeds emerged, we knelt in the earth, shoulder to shoulder, and tugged until our hands bore the mark of green. Before you depart, Should any fragment of this find its way to your side, share with me what you would have done with the letters. Shall we set them ablaze? Shall we retain one? Send them back in time, leaving no trace behind? I shall remain here, immersed in my reading. Breathing becomes a simpler task when the narrative of another is within reach, offering a comforting support to lean upon. And if you find yourself in a closet with a cedar box, contemplating keys and coffee on a porch that may never return to its former self, I urge you to listen to this wisdom from an elder who discovered it too late. There exists a future that is not defined by bitterness. It will not resemble the past you believed you possessed. It may appear as a bench beside a window, a hand that still recognizes yours, and a silence vast enough to embrace two souls who have chosen to be courageous once more. Kindly open the porch door. Allow the air to enter. Take a seat. Start anew.